Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif had reviewed the country's counter-terrorism operations with a focus on their national action plan before giving his approval. If you recall, this action plan was adopted after December 2014 Peshawar Army Public School attack. It had resulted in 140 deaths, mostly of the students. Now, the larger question is, what is the real reason behind Azm-e-Istikam? Not only were the Chinese investments in Pakistan under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor or the CPEC is proving to be a loss-making venture, even the physical security of the Chinese workers in Pakistan is in grave jeopardy. It has been made very clear to the Pakistanis that future Chinese investments were contingent upon Pakistan getting its act together on providing security to the Chinese workers. During Shehbaz Sharif's visit to Beijing last month, despite all the hyperbole that usually accompanies anything to do between China and Pakistan, there was very little outcome in real substantive terms. Speculation has been rife that there is visible cooling off in the bilateral relationship. However, the Chinese seem to be losing interest in at least the economic side of things. Which was supposed to have added a new dimension to the security and strategic relationship when CPEC was initiated 10 years ago. For a couple of years now, the Chinese have been trying to impress upon the Pakistanis that without political stability and security, there was no way that CPEC projects could move forward. This same message was given by Xi Jinping in no uncertain terms during Shehbaz Sharif's recent visit to China. And just a day before the announcement of the new military operation, the visiting Chinese minister Li Jianchao bluntly informed his Pakistani hosts that security threats are the main hazards to CPEC cooperation. In the case of Pakistan, the primary factor shaking the confidence of Chinese investors is the security situation.
China, you came here without our consent, supported our enemies, helped Pakistani military in wiping our villages. But now it's our turn. The motive of our attack was very clear. It was a simple and clear message to China and Pakistan to withdraw immediately.
The Chinese are not giving them any more money. We haven't heard of any new monies being given to Pakistan. At best, what the Chinese are ready to do is roll over previous debts. But there is no new money coming in.
The Chinese for long have been trying to impress upon the Pakistanis that if they are unable to protect Chinese workers, China should be allowed to bring in their own security. But Pakistan has balked at this demand and reiterated assurance of providing complete security to all the Chinese. However, things seems to be reaching a point where Pakistani assurances need to be backed by concrete action on ground. This is required not just to satisfy the Chinese, but also to push back the alarming inroads made by the TTP and other armed groups, including the Baluch separatists. With Pakistan's economy in a mess, it desperately needs both foreign and domestic investment. But given the political instability and the deteriorating security situation, neither the domestic nor the foreign investors are ready to invest in Pakistan. However, conducting a large-scale anti-terrorist military operation will not be an easy option for a variety of reasons.
Because the economy is not really picking up, economic difficulties are increasing, and at the same time they've increased the defense budget by something like 18%. If they are getting into a long-winded kind of an operation, the kind of ambitious operation in which they are going to do rehabilitation, economic development, completely refurbishing the judicial system, I don't see how that's going to happen, and do it all when you don't have a public mandate.
Since the year 2007, this is the 12th major anti-terrorist military operation in the region of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. There have been minor ones earlier. However, the most of them were of tactical in nature, focusing on particular area that had become troublesome. Pakistan Army, when it comes to such operations, has a very brutal history of ruthlessness and inflicting extreme violence upon her own very citizens. Not long ago, they had planned and executed one of the most deadliest of the operations in recent times, the Zarb-e-Azb. This displaced millions of Pakhtuns, razing hundreds of villages and towns to dust.
Almost 1/3 of the Pakistan Army's brigades were employed in Operation Zarb-e-Azb. And they used every extreme measure to take out the terrorists at that time in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa area in particular, although the operation was nationwide. To the extent that against terrorists, the use of air power, helicopter gunships, mortars and artillery, that kind of a thing which had never been seen before.
After Zarb-e-Azb, there was a significant tamping down of terrorism. In the earlier operations, it didn't matter because you carried out an operation in Swat, the guys moved to Bajaur or some other place. You did it in Bajaur, they moved to South Waziristan. You did it in South Waziristan, they moved to North Waziristan. You did it in North Waziristan, they moved to Afghanistan.
The Operation Zarb-e-Azb was launched on 15th June 2014 in North Waziristan along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. This was a renewed effort against militancy in the wake of 8th June attack on Jinnah International Airport in Karachi, for which the TTP had claimed the responsibility. As a fallout to these operations, about 1 million people were forced out of their homes, described by Pakistanis as a final push to eradicate the presence of Al-Qaeda, the Taliban and the Islamic movement of Uzbekistan that had plagued the whole of North Waziristan for past 14 years. Thousands of homes and businesses were leveled in airstrikes, artillery and tank bombardment. Pakistani military, which claimed to have killed more than 2,000 terrorists, including hundreds described as foreigners and 0 civilians, later proved to be false. Large number of terrorists managed to cross over into Afghanistan, and the figures of those killed had a large number of civilians in them, basically the Pathans. Ironically, the local Pashtun got caught in the great game with no voice to reason in their favor. Even their own government was using them as a pawn.
Existing 1 million refugees who came, or internally displaced people who came out of Zarb-e-Azb, all this has added to 4-5 million people. Now, when you have internally displaced people like this floating around, obviously this is a population waiting to be exploited. And all you got to do is bring in some ideological aspects into it and promote more and more radical and extremist ideas in them, and they are always willing to go in for whatever they want.
The United States then warned Pakistan to conduct a ground operation in North Waziristan, but Pakistan was reluctant to do so in that part because the area not only housed groups such as Tehreek-e-Taliban which targeted the local government but also the Haqqani network, a group that focused on the insurgency in Afghanistan, whose presence was strategically ignored by the Pakistani military. In the absence of Pakistani ground operations, American drones struck more than 300 times in North Waziristan, killing thousands, many of whom human rights groups and the locals have said were civilians. In the neighboring South Waziristan in 2009, Pakistani troops did carry out large-scale ground offensive. However, it displaced hundreds and thousands of innocent civilians, most of whom have still not returned home. They are the internally displaced persons of Pakistan.
It's not just from that these 1 million people have come out because of Zarb-e-Azb. There are lots of things concerned here. 3 million Afghan refugees first came from Afghanistan into Pakistan in the 80s. They still have not gone back, all of them. So there are displaced people there. The recent floods in the last 2 years in the Indus have created something like 2 million refugees once again. Those have also added to the numbers.
In other parts of tribal regions of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, thousands have been displaced on multiple occasions since year 2007. As the claims of success by military have turned out to be inaccurate, TTP has gained sympathy and support amongst the locals, and it is on the rise. The local Pakhtuns see them as saviors against the Pakistani military atrocities. The war rages on.